my pet zombie evolves into a stunning warrior. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 76. Of course, it's not just Ye Ling and Huasian or other students who are still living in the secret realm have also received the reminder. Okay, the assessment is finally over, the next stage is tomorrow's second stage assessment. After learning that she had passed the first stage assessment, Huasian stretched lazily. Ye Ling, thank you very much this time, otherwise, I might not be able to pass this assessment. Although she didn't like Ye Ling's straight male behavior, Huasian still thanked Ye Ling for saving her. Hearing this, Ye Ling shook his head slightly. You don't need to thank me for this matter, I helped you just for the federal points. I understand that I take money from others and help them get rid of disasters. Since Huasian has reached a deal with him, Ye Ling will naturally protect her well and help her pass the first stage assessment. Now that things have been done, it means that his 100,050 federal points have been settled. 100,050 federal points are really not a small amount for Ye Ling. Huasian, who was in a good mood, froze instantly after hearing this. You straight man. She glared at Ye Ling fiercely with her beautiful eyes, and cursed him secretly with her teeth bitten. At this time, Ye Ling was only thinking about the Federation point, which was completely unromantic. Humph. Don't worry, I, Huasian, have never regretted what I promised. I will give it to you tomorrow. With a cold snort, Huasian shook her hair and turned away. At this moment, Huasian didn't want to stay here at all. She was worried that if she continued to stay, she might pass the first stage of the assessment, but she would be pissed off by Ye Ling. Out of sight, out of mind. Then, Huasian directly pressed the emergency transmission on the watch, and the whole person disappeared on the spot. Looking at Huasian's figure disappearing, Ye Ling showed a trace of helplessness on his face. Sure enough, women change their faces faster than turning pages of books. There is a saying that goes, don't guess what women are thinking. Because you can't guess what she is thinking about. Turning back, he looked at the secret realm behind him with some nostalgia. If time permits, Ye Ling really wants to stay here for a little longer. As long as he is given a little more time, Ye Ling can be promoted to another level and get more materials at the same time. But unfortunately, when the assessment time is up, the people inside must leave the secret realm as soon as possible. Alas! What a pity. Shaking his head, Ye Ling's face was full of pity. Then he pressed the emergency transmission on the watch. A passage suddenly appeared in front of Ye Ling, and Ye Ling entered the passage. Not long after walking, a bright light appeared at the end of the passage. When he walked out of the passage, Ye Ling had returned to the square. At this time, many students had already returned to the square from the secret realm. They really experienced life and death, and they were eager to leave the secret realm as soon as possible. And compared to Ye Ling, basically most of the students were in ragged clothes. There were even quite a few students who were not only in tattered clothes, but also had some scars on their bodies, and some were seriously bleeding. Obviously, this secret realm assessment was far from as simple as it seemed. Although Ye Ling felt relatively relaxed after passing this assessment, it was very difficult for most students. Even the proud sons of the school class might be eliminated accidentally when facing the monsters in the secret realm. For example, Lu Wu, although he was not ranked among the geniuses in the whole grade, was at least at the upper level. As long as he was a little luckier, he could still pass the assessment. But unfortunately, Lu Wu's luck was really bad and he was eliminated in a very embarrassing way. Of course, among this group of seemingly productive students, there were also some lucky ones. Their strength might not be very strong, but they were lucky and did not encounter very powerful monsters. Therefore, they escaped a disaster and successfully passed the first stage of the assessment. But there are too few such students. Most of the students who stayed now were in the upper middle level. As for the students in the lower middle level, there were too few. If their strength was too low, they would not be able to resist even low-level monsters. Therefore, students with low strength basically could not escape the fate of being eliminated. The first stage of the assessment not only assessed strength, but also various abilities, such as survival in the wild, crisis responsibility, etc. At this moment, the data of this assessment suddenly appeared on the screen in the square. Data of the first stage of the assessment: number of people who passed, 82. Number of people who were eliminated, 403. Number of people who died, 75. When everyone saw this set of numbers, they were silent. This elimination rate is really too high, and more than 400 people were eliminated. Not only that, but the 75 people who died have not been counted. And the number of people who can pass the test is only 82. It is conceivable how difficult this test is. Episode 77. For these 82 people, entering the Imperial Spirit Academy is basically a done deal. The only difference is the level of the Imperial Spirit Academy they enter. Those who are eliminated can only lose the qualification to become an imperial spirit. As for those who die, the Federation will give their families a certain amount of compensation. This world is so cruel. If you want to become an imperial spirit, you may have to pay the price of your life. Even if you become an imperial spirit, it does not mean that your life is worry-free. Becoming an imperial spirit means more opportunities to get close to monsters. The death and injury rate is also not low. However, compared to ordinary people, the status of the imperial spirit in the Federation is much higher, and the treatment is naturally much higher. Such a hot profession, so many people flock to it. There will be a certain mortality rate in the annual assessment, and no year can be an exception. This year is also the case. At this time, Ye Ling suddenly remembered Qinji, who was his only friend in the class. There were only about 80 people left at the scene, not too many, so it was not too easy to find someone. Searching back and forth among the more than 80 people, Ye Ling's eyes finally fixed on a person with ragged clothes and messy hair. Ye Ling still remembered that piece of clothing, which was exactly what Qinji wore when he entered the secret realm before. Originally, Ye Ling thought that Qinji might not be able to pass the first stage of the assessment. Unexpectedly, Qinji actually survived. As a friend, Ye Ling was naturally happy for Qinji in this situation. Slowly walked over, came behind Qinji, and slapped him on the shoulder. "Hey! Old Chen, it seems that you are lucky, congratulations on passing the first stage of the assessment." Hearing the voice from behind, Qinji, who looked very embarrassed, came back to his senses and saw Ye Ling, who was very neat, at a glance. Looking at Ye Ling in disbelief, Qinji looked up and down. "Wow. Good fellow, I didn't expect you to not get hurt at all, it seems you run really fast." Qinji was surprised for a moment, then replied with a smile on his face. This time he could be said to have tried his best and survived the first stage of the assessment. Especially before the end of the first stage of the assessment, he was being chased by a powerful monster. It can be said that he was running with his life. If it weren't for the good terrain, he might have become food in the monster's belly. Fortunately, at the end of the final assessment, after hearing the voice that he passed, Qinji immediately pressed the emergency transmission in his hand. At the moment the passage appeared, Qinji ran into it. Fortunately, the monsters in the secret realm had no way to enter that passage, otherwise Qinji would have died now. To be able to pass this assessment, it must be said that he was really lucky in the end. If the time was a little longer, he might have chosen to quit directly out of helplessness. Qinji looked at Ye Ling in front of him, patted his shoulder and comforted him. "Ye Ling, it's okay, being eliminated is not a big deal, you can just be an ordinary person in the future." In Qinji's eyes, Ye Ling's clothes were so neat, and he didn't look like he had experienced a battle at all. It was obvious that he was almost eliminated early. Only at the beginning, when he chose to give up directly when encountering monsters, could he be so neat. It was reasonable for Qinji to think so. After all, it was conceivable that Ye Ling could come out of the secret realm unscathed. Even the top genius in the school did not dare to say that he came out unscathed. And Ye Ling, whose strength can be said to be the worst in the class, how could he pass the level without injury? "What are you talking about, kid? I was not eliminated, I passed the first stage of the assessment. If you don't believe me, see for yourself." As he said, Ye Ling put the watch in his hand in front of Qinji. 4 big words were displayed on the watch. "Passed the test." This is obvious, it can't be faked. When Qinji saw the words on the watch, his pupils suddenly dilated. His eyes widened, and an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. How is this possible? He never thought that Ye Ling could pass the first stage of the test. You know, that is a secret realm with many monsters, and Ye Ling was able to pass the first stage of the test without any damage. This made Qinji completely confused. What was going on? Even now his brain has crashed, and he has almost lost the ability to think. Ye Ling actually passed the first stage of the test, the first stage of the assessment. This is something Qinji never expected. Of course, it's not that Qinji didn't want Ye Ling to pass, but he was shocked by Ye Ling's spotless appearance. Is the gap between people so big? Ye Ling, who should have been at the bottom of the class, passed the assessment so easily. "Ye Ling, you." Qinji came back to his senses and was about to say something. Episode 78. Shang Lingkong, who was originally on the stage, suddenly stood up at this moment. His pair of majestic and sharp eyes looked around at the embarrassed students below and said loudly, "Congratulations on passing the first stage of the assessment. Now, you can go back and rest, and prepare well for the second stage of the assessment tomorrow. The second stage of the assessment will determine what kind of Yelingshi Academy you will be favored by." All the students were ignored by him. Only when he saw Ye Ling did Shang Lingkong's eyes stay for 3 seconds before leaving. As for the representatives of the four Yelingshi Academy sitting in the back, almost all of them focused on Ye Ling, with a slightly fiery look. This naked look was already very obvious. Ye Ling was their target. And Ye Ling, of course, could also notice the look from the stage. He was not surprised at all. This was reasonable. If the strength he showed in the first stage of the assessment could not satisfy these representatives, it would be really weird. Reaching the second level of spiritual power chain, just based on this ability, Ye Ling is enough to win their favor. And actively exposing part of his strength is what Ye Ling wants to see. Because only in this way can he enter the eyes of these top-level representatives of the Imperial Spirit Academy. Even after the second stage of the assessment is completed, the benefits you get can be maximized. Ye Ling will not be satisfied with just the general recruitment conditions if he wants to become stronger. Ye Ling needs better recruitment conditions. And the stronger the strength he shows, the better the conditions the other party will offer. Strength is the stepping stone. Shang Lingkong said some inspiring words again, and then announced the disbandment. I hope you can get better results tomorrow. Disband. Although these students have passed the assessment, most of them are still injured and must be treated as soon as possible. People like Ye Ling who are not hurt at all are almost non-existent. Even Li Xingtian, the genius currently ranked first in the grade, the son of the head of the Li family, one of the 3 first-class families in Tianhui City, also suffered a minor injury. This is already the best case. And seeing Ye Ling's appearance, I'm afraid no one would believe that he actually passed the first stage of the assessment. Li Xingtian, a genius of the 1st level and 8th level in the school, is currently the student ranked first in strength in the school. He is not only calm and composed, but also not as arrogant as Lu Wu. Although he is ranked first in the grade, Li Xingtian has never been proud of it. In his opinion, this is just a matter of course. He has such a good family background. If he can't become a strong man with the help of the family, he is a waste. When passing the first stage of the assessment, Li Xingtian only suffered a few minor injuries. He was lucky and did not encounter monsters living in groups. And he would find a place to hide at night to avoid encountering those monsters that hide during the day and come out at night. Li Xingtian knew very well that even if he was the top student in the grade, he would not be able to escape if he was surrounded by a large number of monsters in the secret realm. With a strong self-awareness, Li Xingtian successfully passed the assessment of this stage. But just now, he noticed that the city lord's eyes and the eyes of the representatives of the top Ye Ling Academy seemed to be all focused on one person. And the sharp Li Xingtian immediately realized who they were looking at. A clean and spotless student entered Li Xingtian's field of vision. To be favored by so many big shots, this person must have passed the assessment. Li Xingtian could guess that Ye Ling had successfully passed the assessment. But the other party was spotless, which meant that the other party did not encounter any trouble in the secret realm. Or the other party solved the trouble directly. Although Li Xingtian wanted the first result very much, if it was the first result, it would definitely not make these big shots look at him with new eyes. In other words, it can only be the second result. This person dealt with all the troubles he encountered without any effort. When he came to this conclusion, Li Xingtian's first feeling was disbelief. Being favored by so many bigwigs, it seems that these bigwigs are still fighting for Ye Ling. It can be seen that Ye Ling must have strong strength. Even Li Xingtian, who ranked first, did not receive such treatment. An unknown student received such treatment, which made Li Xingtian it was a bit hard to accept. Looking back at the ranking of geniuses in the school, Li Xingtian knew most of them, and there was no such person as Ye Ling. And now he suddenly emerged, like a dark horse, which was unexpected. The opponent's strength was at least not inferior to his own, and it was even possible that he was superior to him. Episode 79. In the intelligence he knew, there were at most 1 or 2 people who were equally matched with him. Moreover, these people were people he knew, but Ye Ling was someone he didn't know at all. Li Xingtian was a little suspicious about how Ye Ling became so powerful. You know, there is no shortcut on the road to becoming a powerful spirit controller. To become stronger, you have to keep fighting, spend a lot of federal points, buy the corresponding materials or natural treasures. In the Federation, there are many people who are not from aristocratic families who have become powerful spirit controllers. But such people are really too rare. Moreover, these people are generally gifted and have very rare and powerful spirit pets. But Li Xingtian has never heard of anyone in the school who has a particularly rare spirit pet. The spirit pets with the best qualifications are the spirit pets of the children of these aristocratic families. But why did Ye Ling suddenly rise? And why did he suddenly attract the attention of so many big figures? Li Xingtian is now full of doubts and curiosity. Although he felt that he was being robbed of the limelight, Li Xingtian did not mean to be angry. The first stage of the assessment does not mean anything, only the second stage of the assessment can show whether one is strong or not. The second stage is a personal battle, one-on-one. Li Xingtian is extremely confident in his own strength. Even if he faces the equally powerful Huasiener, Li Xingtian has enough chances of winning. As for Ye Ling, Li Xingtian does not think he will lose to the other party. We will know who is stronger and weaker tomorrow. Li Xingtian has a confident smile on his face, as if he has already won the battle tomorrow. After the disbandment, the students did not go back to their homes to rest immediately, but to gather. First, go back to their classes to count how many people have passed the first stage of the assessment. Ye Ling and Chen Ji returned to their class. As expected, in this last place class, in addition to Ye Ling and Chen Ji, there are 3 other people who passed the assessment. And these 3 people are average in strength, but have better luck. The 3 people happen to be close to each other, so they just huddled together for warmth and struggled for 3 days. The 3 people tried every possible way, they encountered a powerful monster and survived by hiding. As the saying goes, 3 cobblers are better than 1 zhuge liang. When they learned that they passed the exam, they were so excited. Only 5 people in the whole class passed the assessment. You can imagine how cruel it was. The remaining dozens of people were all eliminated. Even Lu Wu, who used to be the first in the class, was seriously injured and eliminated. After the head teacher confirmed that 5 people in his class passed the assessment, he was stunned. Originally, he thought that it would be good if 2 or 3 people passed the assessment, but he didn't expect that there were 5. Not only that, in the head teacher's mind, the one who had the most hope of passing the assessment was naturally Lu Wu, and the other 2, the top 3 students. The result was unexpected, and the situation was completely different from what he thought. None of the 3 students considered by the head teacher passed the assessment. Now among the 3 students, only Lu Wu is still in the medical room. As for the other 2 students, they have not returned at all. Not returning means that they have died in the secret realm. Looking at the 5 people standing in front of him, the head teacher showed a relieved smile on his face. At least there are 5 people in his class who have passed the assessment, which has far exceeded the head teacher's expectations. Although the strength of these 5 people is not very good, especially Ye Ling, who is the last in the class, but if they can pass the first stage of the assessment, they are destined to become a spirit master. Even the lowest level of the Spirit Master Academy is not bad. This is the most real thought in the head teacher's mind now. It's not his fault the people present, including Chen Ji, can be said to think that Ye Ling can pass the first stage of the assessment completely by his luck. There are always some lucky people in the world who can easily pass the difficulties. They can't envy this. Ye Ling is naturally very clear about what the head teacher is thinking. However, he is too lazy to explain so much, because there is no need. My next goal is to go to the top Imperial Spirit Academy, so there is no need to argue with the school's head teacher about this issue. Because it is a waste of time. And even if I say it, others may not believe it. Words are not enough. Who would believe the words of a person who used to be the last in the class? Even if it is Ye Ling's good friend Chen Ji, I am afraid I wouldn't believe such words. It's really too unbelievable. Well, since the 5 of you have passed the first stage of the assessment, I wish you good results in the second stage of the assessment. Don't have too much psychological pressure. You have already stepped half a foot into the position of the Imperial Spirit Envoy. I hope you can learn and achieve something in the future. Looking at the 5 students in front of him, the head teacher advised. Episode 80. In fact, he did not have any expectations for Ye Ling and the other 5. After all, their strength was just like that, and being able to enter a low-level Yuling Academy was already good enough. He did not have too many extravagant hopes that his students could enter any advanced or even top Yuling Academy. This was really too far away, and the possibility was very small. Only a little more than half of the entire class returned, and the remaining half had died. Thinking back to the previous students, the head teacher's face was a little solemn. Every year, a group of students will be sent away, but every year, some students will be buried forever. Every time he thought of this, the head teacher felt a little sad. After taking 2 deep breaths, the head teacher calmed down. Okay, that's all I have to say. I wish you success and goodbye. After saying these words and congratulating, the head teacher left directly. Of the remaining 5 people, the other 3 were naturally ready to celebrate. After all, the 3 of them had to work together sincerely to pass the first stage of the assessment. Only Ye Ling and Chen Ji were left. Ye Ling was going to go back and deal with the materials he didn't need online. This was a lot of federal points, and as long as it was materials, there were people who wanted it. Old Chen, go to the medical room and take a good look and treat your wounds. I'll go back first. See you tomorrow. After saying hello, Ye Ling left in a hurry. Looking at Ye Ling's departing back, Chen Ji opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, Qin still let it go. He actually wanted to know how Ye Ling passed the first stage of the assessment. I'm afraid no one is not curious about how Ye Ling passed the assessment. But now everyone else was blinded by joy and didn't care about this matter at all. Hey! Why think so much? It's a good thing that he can pass the assessment. Qin shook his head slightly and didn't think about those messy things. As a good friend, Qin was sincerely happy for Ye Ling. At least, Ye Ling could become a spirit master. Maybe, in the future, the two of them would have a chance to enter the same school. With this thought in mind, Qin walked towards the medical room. He still had a lot of injuries on his body, although they were not fatal, they all needed to be treated as soon as possible. At this time, in the medical room, Lu Wu, who had fainted due to anger and serious injuries, finally woke up. Lu Wu woke up slowly, opened his eyes, looked at the white ceiling, and frowned. He tried hard to recall what happened before he fainted. And when he remembered again, what he saw on the big screen after leaving the secret realm. Ye Ling. Lu Wu sat up suddenly, his face was slightly ferocious, and his hands tightly grasped the quilt. His heart was full of unwillingness and anger. This is because he did not pass the first stage of the assessment, which means that he lost the qualification to enter the Ye Ling Academy, and also means that he is about to lose his current status. Even Ye Ling, who was the last in the class, was able to pass the first stage of the assessment, but he could not. Not only that, why did Ye Ling, who should have been the last, suddenly become so powerful? Could it be that Ye Ling, who was the last, had some unknown talent? Lu Wu still remembers the scene before he fainted clearly. Ye Ling used the second-level spiritual power chain that only the second-level Ye Ling could use. Such an ability made Lu Wu have to doubt that Ye Ling had a different talent from ordinary people. As for Ye Ling's spiritual pet, Lu Wu knew that it was just a zombie spiritual pet, nothing big. What Lu Wu cares about most now is why Ye Ling can use the second-level spiritual power chain. This is not a small matter, but an unprecedented matter. Lu Wu had always disliked Ye Ling, especially after he knew that Ye Ling was a zombie spirit pet. He had made things difficult for him many times. And now Ye Ling, who he had always looked down upon, had such a strong strength. Lu Wu was very jealous. Jealousy made him split apart. He was jealous of Ye Ling. Why did he have such a talent? Why didn't he have such a talent? However, it was useless to say anything now, as he had no way to join the Imperial Spirit Master Academy. He would also lose the support of his family. It was possible that his life would end here. No. No. I'm not willing to accept this. I won't accept losing to a loser like this. I won't accept it. Lu Wu tightly grasped the guardrail on the bed and growled. The pair of eyes that were ready to devour people were like a demon from hell, which made people feel terrified. Squeak. Because the hand was too strong, the guardrail could not bear the weight and made a distorted sound. Episode 81. Please be quiet. The nurse on the corridor heard the sound coming from the room, opened the door and scolded softly. But when the nurse saw Lu Wu's terrifying eyes, her heart suddenly tightened and her face turned pale with fear. Then the nurse hurriedly closed the door and retreated. Gurgle. The eyes just now were so scary. The nurse patted her chest, which was only slightly up and down, with lingering fear, and felt that her heart was still beating hard. After overcoming her fear, the nurse glanced at the door angrily and turned away. As for Lu Wu in the ward, he did not continue to make a fuss. At this time, his face was gloomy, and his specific expression could not be seen clearly with his head down. However, his whole body exuded a very dangerous aura. Although he was injured, Lu Wu left the medical room soon after he woke up. When leaving the medical room, someone also saw Lu Wu with a gloomy face, who seemed to be muttering something. I don't admit it. I don't admit that you are stronger than me. Absolutely not. It felt like he was mumbling endlessly, but no one knew what he was mumbling about. He was like a psychopath. After returning home, Ye Ling went into the house and lay directly on the sofa, and breathed a long sigh of relief. If it weren't for the fact that he suddenly obtained the system, I'm afraid the Ye Ling envoy would have been isolated from him. He took out all the materials stored in the space ring. Then he listed them online one by one, waiting for buyers to buy them. All the materials obtained from the monsters hunted during this entry into the secret realm, if sold, would have at least 50,000 or 60,000 federal points. In addition, Huasiener still had 105,000 federal points. Ye Ling could get at least 150,000 federal points, which was a huge sum of money for him at the moment. At least, according to the current situation, Ye Ling could be considered a rich man. But don't think that 150,000 Federation points are a lot, in fact, it is just that. If you want to buy the materials you want, or the materials for the next stage of Shueyo's evolution, these Federation points are far from enough. The higher the level of the evolution materials at each stage, the higher the value will be if they are produced from higher level monsters. It's good enough to collect a few evolution materials with these 150,000 Federation points. As expected, the Spirit Master is a pitfall and a waste of money. Open the system's attribute panel again. Host, Ye Ling. Level 1, level 9. Spiritual power, 900 of 900. Spirit skills, Spirit chain, level 2, Spirit shield, level 1, Spirit vision, level 1. Spirit pet, Shueyo. Free points, 2. Then open the data panel of Shueyo again. Name, Shueyo, white-eyed zombie. Attribute, undead. Level 1, level 9, experience value 994%. Growth power, normal. Growth rate, 687%. Equipment, Shueyo's exclusive colorful blood-stained clothing. Talent, physical damage reduction, intermediate, magic damage reduction, intermediate, super speed regeneration, blood mist. Skills, bloodthirsty, blood mad. Task, 1 automatically pick up the task, unfinished. 2 pass the first assessment, completed, and get the reward, spiritual crystal x3. Since the first assessment has been successfully passed, the assessment task issued by the system has also been successfully completed. Took out the reward given by the system, 3 spiritual crystals. In Ye Ling's hand, 3 blue-green diamond crystals appeared. At the same time, information about spiritual crystals also automatically appeared in front of Ye Ling. Spiritual power crystal contains some spiritual power inside. After use, each spiritual power crystal can allow the user to gain 500 spiritual power points. Although the introduction is very short, the function of spiritual power crystal is indeed very powerful. You should know that Ye Ling now has 3 spiritual power crystals in his hand, which can increase the spiritual power value by 1,500 points in total. Adding the 900 spiritual power points that Ye Ling originally had, that is to say, Ye Ling can instantly reach the upper limit of 2,400 spiritual power points. You should know that the first level spiritual master has only 1,000 spiritual power points at most. Only when it is promoted to the second level or above, the spiritual power value will break through to more than 1,000. Moreover, even for the second level spiritual master, the maximum spiritual power is only 5,000 spiritual power points. Now Ye Ling's spiritual power value is close to half of the spiritual power value of the general second level 10th level spiritual master. This is a very terrifying number. Although the second level spiritual power chain will be consumed every time it is used, it consumes 300 spiritual power points. But for Ye Ling now, he can use the second level spiritual power chain 8 times in a short period of time. In the next second stage assessment, winning the championship can be said to be a sure thing. No student's spiritual pet in the school has broken through the second level. In other words, no matter who the next opponent is, there is no possibility of breaking free from Ye Ling's second level spiritual power chain. How can this be played? It is almost certain that he will definitely be the first. Episode 82. Ding, ding, ding. At this time, there was a sudden sound from the computer. Ye Ling stood up and walked over, seeing that someone had bid for the materials he had posted. Someone had bought them. Like the world Ye Ling was in before, this world also has a courier company. It's just that this courier company was jointly established by the Federation and various large families. Because in this world where monsters are rampant, only the Federation and these large families have the strong strength to do such things. All things will be transported by air, and during the air transportation, there will be powerful imperial spirits to follow to prevent encountering powerful monsters. Of course, even so, there will still be unexpected situations. If you encounter a really powerful flying monster, the goods may all be scrapped. This situation is only rare, but it has happened before. But in this world, there is no other way of transportation. Unless you transport it yourself. But if you are not strong enough, you may never return if you transport it yourself. Although the cost of transportation is relatively high, it is generally acceptable. Sure enough, someone came to the door not long after. He was wearing a uniform and said he was here to pick up the express delivery. After delivering the items, he left. It was that simple, and during the transportation, as long as there was no attack by monsters, any damage to the items would be compensated. Although these materials have not yet received the federal points, it is a matter of time. And similarly, I can get 100,050 federal points tomorrow, which is a small fortune. Ye Ling decided to go out for a good meal at noon today, just to celebrate that he passed the first stage of the assessment. Of course, Ye Ling would not forget his good friends when celebrating such a thing. He called Qin Ji and made an appointment to have dinner. After hesitating for a while, Ye Ling also called Huasianer. As for how Ye Ling knew Huasianer's phone number, it was because after Ye Ling came back, he found a piece of paper in his pocket. It was a string of phone numbers. There were only 2 people who had close contact with him. One was Chen Ji, whom he met when he came out. The other was Huasianer, who had spent a day with him in the secret realm. So there was no need to think about it, this phone number must be Huasianer's. Beep. Hello. Who is this? After the call was connected for a while, the other side finally answered, and Huasianer's voice was heard at the same time. I'm Ye Ling, I'm going out for a meal with my friends, are you coming? Anyway, the call was already made, and Ye Ling had nothing to shrink back from, so he directly stated his purpose. At this time, Huasianer, who was taking a good bath in the large bathtub in her room, recognized Ye Ling's voice at the first time. She was still a little happy in her heart. At least her phone number was not left in vain, and this guy knew to call her. When she heard that Ye Ling actually asked her to go out for dinner again, Huasianer certainly would not refuse. After wiping the moisture off her face with a towel, Huasianer replied with a smile. Of course, time and place. Huasianer was also very direct, and asked Ye Ling for the detailed time and place. Huang Road XXXX, just arrived before 1 o'clock. Ye Ling's voice rang in the phone, with the detailed time and place. Huasianer's mouth corner slightly raised. Okay, I know, I will definitely arrive later. This meal is one purpose, and Ye Ling has not forgotten the other purpose. Okay, don't forget my federal point. Sure enough, the federal point is still what he can't forget. When Huasianer thought of this, she was very annoyed. By the way, Ye Ling, Beep beep beep. Huasianer was about to say something, but before she finished speaking, there was a busy tone in the phone. Before she finished speaking, she hung up her phone. Huasianer should have been in a good mood, but now she suddenly felt like something was stuck in her throat. There was an uncomfortable feeling, making Huasianer very uncomfortable. Humph. Ye Ling, you dared to hang up my phone, I will remember you. Looking at the phone prompt that it had been hung up, Huasianer bit her silver teeth and said angrily. She always hangs up other people's calls, who dares to hang up her phone like this? Ye Ling, it can be said to be the first one. Since Ye Ling now has a small income, he has made a lot just by selling materials. The imperial spirit is not just a profession that costs money, is also a profession that makes money quickly. Some imperial spirit masters, if they obtain a rare material, can even become rich overnight, which is not impossible. The first person to arrive at the agreed location was naturally Ye Ling himself. The place he chose was not very far from his residence. This is a hotel that looks very luxurious and stylish. The sign says, Glorious Hotel, and the consumption inside is not low. If it were the previous Ye Ling, he would never have thought of coming to such a place. Those who can come here are generally some imperial spirit masters. Ordinary people, even if they come here, can't afford it. Episode 83. Making a random meal, or a dish, can be equal to an ordinary person's monthly income. After waiting outside for a while, I saw Chen Ji running over. Compared with the miserable appearance at the venue where the assessment ended, Chen Ji, who had tidied himself up, became a spirited young man again. Ye Ling, good fellow. You are rich, and you actually come to such a place. When Chen Ji first received the call, his first reaction was disbelief. The Brilliant Hotel can be said to be the largest hotel in Tianhui City at present, and it is also the highest grade hotel. The consumption here, Chen Ji can imagine it even if he wants to, must be very high. But now, since Ye Ling chose to treat guests to a meal here, Chen Ji had to doubt that Ye Ling really made a fortune. Ha ha ha. I just sold some materials and made a small profit, and didn't I pass the first stage assessment today? It's a good time to celebrate and have a good meal. Besides, after tomorrow, we may go our separate ways, who knows when we'll meet again. Ye Ling smiled as he put his arm around Chen Ji's shoulders. How could he not know that it was expensive here? But now he has money and knows how to make money. If he has a system but still lives worse than others, he might as well die. Ye Ling, who has a system, is destined to rise as long as he has time and become a big boss in this world in the future. Even, Ye Ling may be able to reach the top of this world and become the strongest in the world. Of course, all this is in the future now, all he needs to do is enjoy it. Hearing this, Chen Ji also sighed. Yes. We will go our separate ways tomorrow, let's go quickly and go in today, I'm going to make a killing for you, a local tyrant. It was the first time for Chen Ji to come to the Brilliant Hotel naturally, he was a little excited and couldn't wait to go in. However, Ye Ling quickly held him down and explained. Old Chen, don't panic, there is still one person who hasn't come yet. When she comes, we will go together. The she that Ye Ling was talking about was naturally Huasianer. Of course, Qin didn't know that Ye Ling and Huasianer would be related. She? Which she? It can't be your she? As he said this, Qin showed a sly smile on his face and poked Ye Ling with his elbow, his face full of ill intentions. Hearing this, Ye Ling really didn't know what to say for a while. He and Huasianer obviously had no relationship at all before in the secret realm, they were just employers and bodyguards. What kind of relationship could there be? Old Chen, stop imagining, it's nonsense. We just met in the secret realm, and we can barely be considered friends. Isn't this a meal? I just happened to ask her to come along. While saying this, Ye Ling silently added in his heart. If you knew that I still have 100,050 federal points stored with her, I'm afraid you would be envious to death. Ye Ling didn't say much about the federal points. After all, this was a deal between him and Huasianer, and there was no need to make it known to everyone. Wow. You've made friends now? Is it an ordinary friend or a girlfriend? What's her name? Tell me if I recognize her? Qin was now full of curiosity about who the person Ye Ling was talking about was. Ye Ling was not good at making friends before, which was a bit similar to what Ye Ling said in his previous life world. Qin was the only friend in the whole class, and he only had one friend in his class, not to mention other classes. Ye Ling didn't know how to complain about Qin's words, and his imagination was very rich. Fuck. Damn it, can you stop being so gossipy? We've only known each other for one day, how could she be your girlfriend? Damn it, I think you're still dreaming. But Qin was still persistent and continued to ask. Tell me, we are brothers, it's immoral for you not to tell me about good things. Just when Ye Ling wanted to continue talking, a car horn suddenly sounded. Beep. The sudden horn interrupted the chat between Ye Ling and Qin. Swish. A sports car did a beautiful tailspin and stopped accurately in front of the two. Oh my god. Do you want to play like this? What a beautiful car. Looking at this sports car, Qin's eyes were full of envy. However, he could only envy. After all, this kind of stuff is a luxury, and he, an ordinary person, can't afford it. Just when Qin was still envious at that time, Ye Ling suddenly patted his shoulder and raised his chin towards the place where the sports car was parked. Someone is coming, don't you want to see? It's her. Hearing this, Qin was immediately shocked. The other person who came to eat that Ye Ling mentioned, could it be the one driving this sports car? But how could Ye Ling know such a rich family? Before, he said that he didn't know her in the secret realm. Could it be Ye Ling saved her in the secret realm, but his strength? No matter how he thought about it, Qin always felt that he couldn't figure it out. Then, in Qin's shocked eyes, Huasianer, dressed in a youthful and beautiful outfit, walked down from the sports car. Episode 84. When he saw Huasianer's face clearly, Qin was stunned on the spot. Hua. After calling for a long time, he still couldn't call out Huasianer's name. Obviously he was shocked. Huasianer. Ye Ling introduced very calmly. Still a little unbelievable, Qin rubbed his eyes hard, trying to see more clearly. With a bitter smile, Qin said with envy. Really? Old Yi, my uncle Yi, what on earth did you do? You are actually related to the eldest lady of the Hua family. It is impossible not to envy, actually being related to the eldest lady of the Hua family in Tianhui City. Not to mention anything else, even if there is no way to pass the assessment and become a spirit master, the future work will be almost smooth sailing. Just relying on the reputation of the Hua family in Tianhui City is enough. I don't know what kind of luck this brother has, and he can actually be related to Huasianer. I originally thought that Ye Ling was lucky to pass the first stage of the assessment, but I didn't expect that people would be angry when they compare themselves to others. Ye Ling, who is this? Huasianer, who came over, looked at Ye Ling and Qin beside him with some confusion. Originally, Huasianer thought that it was only her and Ye Ling this time, and she was very happy at first. This shows that Ye Ling regards her as a friend, at least, the relationship between the two has become closer. But I didn't expect that there were other people. This dinner was really a dinner for friends, and there was nothing else at all. Thinking of this, Huasianer couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. Am I not beautiful? Or am I no longer attractive? Why does Ye Ling seem to have no interest in me? No matter what, I am also the school belle, and my appearance is also very good. But this guy in front of me is like a blockhead, and he doesn't seem to have any interest in me, which makes Huasianer also very shocked. Let me introduce you to each other first. I don't need to introduce Huasianer. You must know Lao Chen. This is my good friend who often helped me in the past. His name is Qin. Yes, he also passed the first decision test. Maybe we will meet again in the next test. After introducing the two, Huasianer finally knew who this person was. Ms. Hua, hello. Seeing Hua Xianer, Qin Ji seemed very reserved, and no longer teased Ye Ling at the beginning. Especially when he thought about teasing Ye Ling about whether the person who came was his girlfriend, Qin Ji felt even more embarrassed. The other party was the eldest daughter of the Hua family, and it was not something that a small person like him could easily tease. Don't hit a smiling person, Hua Xianer nodded politely. Hello. Just a reply, didn't say much. After all, the two of them didn't have any intersection, just because there was Ye Ling between them. Apart from Ye Ling, the two might not even have the chance to know each other. Being in different classes, it is almost impossible for them to have any intersection. Seeing Qin Ji, who became reserved, Ye Ling smiled and patted his shoulder. Okay, let's go in and eat first. Then, the three of them walked into the brilliant hotel. When the three of them left, the person who looked like a bodyguard in the car that Hua Xianer got off before took out his mobile phone and made a call. Master, the young lady is in the brilliant hotel, it seems that she is having dinner with others, do you want me to go in with her? Obviously, this bodyguard was arranged by Hua Xianer's father Hua Qingshan to protect her. On the other end of the phone, a mature and steady middle-aged man's voice came. No need, since she is Xianer's friend, I believe she knows her limits. I am very curious, who is his friend? So, go and help me check who Xianer's friend is, I want to see if he has any intention to get close to Xianer. After receiving the order from his master, the bodyguard naturally nodded in agreement. Yes, sir, I will check it right away. Just considering the status of the Hua family in Tianhui City, it is not too easy to check a person's information. At this time, in the Hua family compound, Hua Qingshan was sitting in the pavilion in the yard. After hanging up the phone, Hua Qingshan's face did not change at all. He was not worried about Hua Xianer getting into trouble, nor was he worried about Hua Xianer being deceived by others. Hua Qingshan was still very confident about his quirky daughter. Hua Xian was trained by him as the next head of the family since she was a childer is not someone who is easily fooled. Moreover, this is Tianhui City, and there are people who dare to be presumptuous in front of the Hua family. Dad. At this time, a young and beautiful figure ran over from the corridor. Hearing the voice, Hua Qingshan showed a kind smile on his face. Seeing this young and beautiful figure appearing in front of him, Hua Qingshan immediately smiled. Isn't this Linger? Why, don't you have to study hard today? A green dress, with a delicate face, slender figure, and a pair of long legs. Except for some subtle differences with Hua Xianer, the two can be said to look very similar. This is Hua Qingshan's other daughter, Hua Linger, Hua Xianer's sister, and the second lady of the Hua family. However, the two were not born in the same year, and the difference between the two was more than 1 year. Hua Linger was born after Hua Xianer was more than 1 year old. Therefore, Hua Linger is currently a sophomore at Radiant High School. This time next year, she will take the Spirit Master exam. Upon hearing this, Hua Linger's eyes turned. Oh. Dad, the things taught in school are too simple, I can learn them easily, so I feel bored. Hua Linger pouted her little mouth and pulled a stool to sit next to Hua Qingshan. Although she is a lady from a wealthy family, compared with her sister Hua Xianer, Hua Linger can be said to be eccentric. This is also because she has been loved by her father since she was a child. No matter what good things there are, her father will try his best to help her get them. Compared with Hua Xianer, who is very mature and can even take on certain responsibilities, Hua Linger is really a child. However, Hua Qingshan is also happy with this. He has already cultivated a very good daughter, so there is no need to deprive another daughter of her freedom. Although Hua Qingshan felt guilty when he thought of Hua Xianer's suffering, he was helpless because it was all for the family. By the way, why didn't I see my sister? I wanted to congratulate her for successfully passing the first stage of the assessment, but why didn't I see her? Hua Linger was a little curious about why she didn't see her sister. Episode 85. Normally, Hua Linger is the most attached to her elder sister. She often follows Hua Xianer like a tail. It was only recently that Hua Xianer was busy with the final sprint training, and Hua Linger stopped following Hua Xianer under Hua Qingshan's order. Otherwise, Hua Xianer might not even be able to break through to the 8th level of the first stage. Because her younger sister is too annoying. Hearing his little daughter say this, Hua Qingshan held his forehead helplessly. No one knows a daughter better than her father. How could he not know what his quirky little daughter was thinking about now? Touching Hua Linger's hair with some pampering, Hua Qingshan said earnestly. Your sister has gone out for something, she said she was going to meet a friend, don't bother her at this time. You will have to go through the assessment in 1 year, take the time to practice well, and don't make any mistakes. The eldest daughter has passed the first stage of the assessment in Hua Qingshan's opinion, the second stage of the assessment is even simpler. Because there are more uncertainties in the first stage of the assessment, and the second stage is a competition of hard power. With Huisyaner's ability, entering the Xuanwu Yuling Envoy Academy can be said to be a sure thing. Now the only thing that can make me worry is my second daughter, who still has some childish mentality and is not mature at all. When Hulinger heard what her father said, she immediately curled her lips in displeasure. Humph. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. You just ask people to practice every day. It's hard to take a break during the holiday. I won't pay attention to you. After saying that, Hulinger ran away. If you want to know where your sister is going, you don't have to ask your father, you can also ask the housekeeper. Hulinger ran away and found the housekeeper. After a series of coercive and bribing questions, the other party finally told the truth. So my sister went to the brilliant hotel. In that case, hee. Then I will go with her. Having learned where her sister went, Hulinger naturally couldn't stay at home and wait for death. She really wanted to see who Huisyaner's so-called friends were. As far as she knew, Huisyaner made friends in school, but she was just polite and didn't have very good friends. Therefore, she never went out to have dinner with her friends. And this time, such a situation actually happened, and Hulinger was naturally very curious. Hulinger found a car of her own and drove out of the Hu family stealthily, and her destination was the brilliant hotel. At this time, in the brilliant hotel, Ye Ling and the others came to a private room. Since it is a high-end restaurant, there are not many people dining there, so there are usually vacancies in the private rooms, and there will be no competition. It can be said that Ye Ling and Chen Ji entered such a high-end hotel for the first time. After all, they are ordinary students, and they had no capital to enter such a high-end hotel before. Looking around, Ye Ling seemed very calm and unperturbed. This was not because he pretended to be so, but after experiencing rebirth, these things could no longer surprise him. And Chen Ji was just like Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden, looking here and there. At the same time, he was very careful, fearing that he would damage the decorations in the private room. After all, these decorations looked very valuable, and if he was not careful, it might be a large amount of federal points. This was still very strenuous for Chen Ji. As for Huisyaner, it goes without saying that with her status, she could eat in such a hotel at any time. Things like ordering food were naturally handed over to Huisyaner, who was obviously more experienced. Huisyaner must be very clear about what is delicious and what is not. When it comes to ordering, Huisyaner casually told the waiter the names of a few dishes without even looking at the menu. Just from the names of these dishes, Chen Ji felt that this meal must be expensive. You have to know that Ye Ling is treating, but Chen Ji thinks he knows Ye Ling's situation very well. His situation is worse than his own, and he needs the help of the Federation to be able to study in school. What superior conditions are there? But now, Ye Ling dared to invite him to eat in such a high-end restaurant. Chen Ji once doubted whether Ye Ling was a little arrogant. Just when Chen Ji was full of various doubts, Huisyaner suddenly took out a card from her bag. Then, Huisyaner handed the card to Ye Ling again. Ye Ling, this is the reward we agreed on before. I'll give it to you now, lest someone says I'm refusing to pay. When Huisyaner mentioned the word reward, she spoke very seriously and couldn't help but grit her teeth. Recalling the attitude Ye Ling had towards her in the secret realm before, Huisyaner felt very unhappy. Ding! Your reward has been delivered. Of course, this is not the system's prompt sound, but a special effect that Ye Ling added to himself. Episode 86. Ye Ling was in a good mood, but Huisyaner was not. You know, I have always been the focus of everyone since I was a child. No matter what I do, I will be the focus of everyone's attention. However, Ye Ling, this guy, actually disdained me, which made Huisyaner very shocked. After all, I had been used to being the focus of everyone. Suddenly, I was not valued, so I naturally felt a little unbalanced. This is also reasonable. The most important thing is, doesn't Ye Ling know that building a good relationship with me is more important than the 100,050 federal points? You know, I am the young master of the Hu family. As long as I have a good relationship with me, when I become the head of the family, the weight of this relationship will be heavy. Many people think about how to please me, just to show their faces in front of me, but Ye Ling doesn't care about his identity at all. This makes Huisyaner wonder why. Doesn't Ye Ling need connections and resources? Looking at the Federation card handed to him, Ye Ling grabbed it without hesitation. However, Huisyaner did not let go immediately, but stared at Ye Ling with her eyes. Ye Ling, in your eyes, is my friendship not as important as these 150,000 Federation points? Hearing this, Ye Ling immediately laughed. Miss Hua, you also know my situation. For me, Federation points are of course more important. Be more practical. As for your friendship, if I take this card, will you break up with me? I invited Huisyaner to dinner, and the other party agreed without hesitation. Obviously, Huisyaner still values the relationship between the two. Therefore, whether or not there is 150,000 Federation points, Huasiener will not break up with Ye Ling. With strength even stronger than himself and talent above himself, Ye Ling's future achievements will definitely not be low. Huasiener will never choose to break up with such a person who can be invested. Even, Huasiener has to maintain the relationship between the two. Seeing the confident smile on Ye Ling's face, Huasiener gritted her teeth in anger. Ah. Finally, with a sigh, Huasiener let go of the hand holding the federal card. She knew that Ye Ling was right. She was unwilling to break up with Ye Ling. In addition to having a certain good impression of Ye Ling, Huasiener wanted Ye Ling to remember her goodness. At least no matter what happens in the future, Ye Ling may not stand against her or her family. Okay. You win, you are right, I am shameless, okay. After saying that, Huasiener crossed her arms a little angrily and turned her head away, so that she would not look at the other person's annoying face. Chen Ji, who was sitting next to Ye Ling, never said a word. But he heard some incredible news from it. That is, the federal card in Ye Ling's hand actually has 105,000 points. For Chen Ji, this is simply an astronomical figure. Since he grew up, he has never seen so many federal points at once. His eyes moved back and forth between Ye Ling and Huasiener, and Chen Ji had a very big question in his mind. That is, what is going on between these two people? Why did Huasiener inexplicably give Ye Ling such a large amount of federal points? His eyes stayed on the federal card, and Chen Ji swallowed unconsciously, and his tone of voice unconsciously increased. Gulu. Olji, are there really 105,000 federal points in it? Ye Ling played with the federal card in his hand and nodded in response. Yes, there are 105,000 federal points in it. Chen Ji's expression was also reasonable. If it weren't for the rebirth, I'm afraid that Ye Ling before would not be much better than Chen Ji now. Of course he envied, but Chen Ji didn't have any jealousy in his heart, and he was just happy for his brother. You actually made such a big money from Miss Hua, so I won't be polite today. If Chen Ji was a little hesitant about coming here for dinner at the beginning. Then now, Chen Ji is not worried at all. Eating a meal in such a high-end hotel usually costs only a few thousand or tens of thousands of federal points, so there is no need to worry that Ye Ling can't pay the bill now. Since Ye Ling invited him here, it means that he doesn't need his own food, so Chen Ji will naturally not be polite. As for what kind of deal Ye Ling and Huasiener had, Chen Ji didn't ask too much. Since neither of them said it clearly, Chen Ji wouldn't ask about it. Although he was puzzled, he was not a gossipy person. They chatted a little bit, and soon, the door of the private room opened, and dishes were served one by one. Looking at the exquisite delicacies placed on the table, Chen Ji felt his saliva secreting a lot. Ye Ling was almost the same. Although he had been reborn for a while, it was the first time for him to eat in such a high-end place. Although the food he made tasted okay, it was still a little different from that in the hotel. Episode 87. Ye Ling was celebrating the fact that he had passed the first stage of the assessment, but some people were not so comfortable. This person was naturally Lu Wu. Among all the forces above the second-rate families in Tianhui City, only Lu Wu of the Lu family did not pass the first stage of the assessment.